Good evening. Good evening. Oh, sorry. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Transparent Talks with Wendell Freeman. I'm your host, Wendell Freeman, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for this fourth episode today. Today, we're diving into the critical issue that affects so many in our city, the housing crisis in Baltimore. I'm honored to have a very special guest with me, Will Hanna, a dedicated Park Heights advocate and entrepreneur, my main man. Welcome, Will, man. Welcome to the Transfer Talks and Wendell Freeman, man. Good evening. Look, I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to have you, man. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Let's talk about why we're here. Let's talk about the current state of housing in Baltimore. Can you give our listeners an overview of the housing crisis we face in our city?
One of the things, and thanks for that question, the housing crisis in Baltimore, you have, and we can be transparent today, right? We can be real transparent today. So part of the housing crisis in Baltimore, one, is you deal with the vacant houses, but then you deal with the houses that are occupied that people can't afford to stay in. That's the crisis. The crisis is that we have a lack of affordability and we have a lack of equity and fairness in housing in Baltimore City. And I will say this, some of it is deliberate, some of it is intentional, and the only way that that changes is when we do it. And a lot of people aren't happy when we do it. So, and we can dive into it. We can dive right into it. Back in 2010, so a lot of people know there's a bunch of vacant houses in Baltimore. We know that. But why do we have a bunch of vacant houses in Baltimore, right? The why is the problem. And back in 2010, there was a huge tax sale auction in Baltimore. And a lot of people came in, a lot of people that don't look like people that live in the majority of the city of Baltimore, bought up about a bunch of those properties. So today you have about almost 20,000 vacant houses. And of those 20,000 vacant houses, 10,000 of them are owned by corporate entities that have no benefit to the people in the community. Of those 10,000, roughly 8,000 of those, they are now owned by corporations that have no good standing in not only in the state, but also in our communities. So you see a lot of these vacant houses that are owned by these corporations that have now been forfeited. That's what it's called. And the city hasn't found a way to capture those properties because the city doesn't want to get entangled in lawsuits in dealing with corporate entities. So now you have about 10,000 properties that are unattainable to take through receivership by the city of Baltimore. Those properties are now sitting in our neighborhoods all over the place. Nobody found a way to capture those until now. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and to this point, to that point though, Wendell, we've had mayor after mayor after mayor after mayor, governor after governor. I can name their names. Sheila was one. I can go back to Kurt Smoke, Clarence D. Burns, Martin O'Malley, Sheila Dixon. I keep going. Catherine Pugh, Stephanie Rawlins Blake, Brandon Scott. We had 20,000 vacant houses 20 years ago. We have 20,000 vacant houses today. And so the why is the problem. And the thing is, we have been forced to live in those conditions in our neighborhood with nobody really caring. I don't know if I can curse on here, so I'm gonna try not to. Right?
You can just transfer. You can say whatever you want to say. Well,
so when you have that many people, and these were Black mayors, we've had Black city council presidents, we've had Black delegates, Black senators, Black comptrollers, Let me go down the list of all of those people, right? Nobody figured out a way or why we should get rid of these vacant houses, right? Why or how to get rid of these vacant houses. And how do we get people to understand that you don't have to live that way? We ain't gotta live like that. And so it angers me to some extent. It angered me enough to actually put some legislation in and say, this is how we don't have to tolerate this. We ain't gotta live like this in our neighborhoods, right? So in 2010, when they did this whole live auction and did this huge tax sale, I think I'm going in and out. Am I good? Okay. So when we did this whole tax sale and this live auction and all of this, in 2010, there was a piece of legislation that was written called the Affordable Housing Community Land Trust legislation. And in that was a mechanism that was created, and I helped co-write this legislation. In that are mechanisms that will create permanently affordable housing, but we added something different to it. You hear people running around Baltimore now talking about this community land trust over here, and we're gonna do this community land, but nobody knew how to implement it. So my experience with the community land trust was I did federal oversight of it when I was at the U.S. Department of Justice. So we understood how to implement it. Back when I came back to Baltimore in 2008, the legislation didn't exist when we tried to do it. So the legislation was then done, and we created the first affordable housing community land trust in Park Heights in 2012. So this is how long we've been doing it, since 2012. Now 100 homes later, 100 houses later, 100 families later, 100 affordable units later, now we've seen the benefit. We've seen, and our community has been the beneficiary of a lot of that work. So, but why just Park Heights?
Absolutely.
Why just Park Heights?
Absolutely. And that's a critical point. The shortage of affordable housing, just a local issue, but nationwide problem. What specific factors have contributed to the shortage in Baltimore? And you just stated everything that obviously, as the people that are woke. And I think that, like the average person who is living in a condition where a vacant house is next to you, across from you, beside you, right? And people don't care, right? And when I noticed that when I was running for mayor, even me growing up as a child in Baltimore, like to figure out has been an issue even since I was a child. And nothing, like you said, no mayor in my lifetime, no governor in my lifetime has done anything about it. But then we talk about why so much crime in communities. When we talk about businesses closing down, but we're gonna get into that. But that's all about why Baltimore City is the way it is. Because like I learned growing up that just because we black don't mean that you in the best interests of me. It's all about who's feeding the pocket, right? And that's with me growing up as a boy thinking like, wow, why is we can't have the same things that Roland Park have, right? Why we can't? Roland Park has no vacant houses. You ride through vacant park, it's like this is a different part of Baltimore, right? Why can East, West, South, Northeast, Southwest, why can't every part of Baltimore look like that? Why? Because the people that have the power to do it are not willing to do it because that doesn't benefit them.
Right. Well, here's the other part of that.
Yes, sir.
Right. The other part of that is Baltimore lives and thrives off federal money, particularly housing, HUD, thrives off of that. So the only way to continue to give federal money is to keep the city depressed. If you fix all the problems, there's no need to keep giving you money. Right. So when we fix the problems, they hate seeing us coming.
Right.
They don't like seeing us coming when we come with a solution to something that you're financially benefiting off of, because now we hitting you in the pocket.
Right.
Now this becomes more of a financial situation for them and their backers and their financiers and all of those people who benefit and live off of the backs of the people that are struggling in this city. That's why when we do certain things, and I mentioned that we did about 100 houses just in one community, but we did that with no city money, no state money, no federal money, nobody else's money but our own. and the people that cared enough to invest in those neighborhoods. So that is the problem. And when people see that you don't need them to do something to benefit your people, then you become an outsider.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, those are crucial points, addressing the issues requiring a comprehensive approach. Before we move on, I want to take acknowledge a tragedy that occurred recently. On Saturday, July 13th, there was a shooting at a Donald Trump rally. What are your thoughts on that? I have a couple of theories myself, but I want to hear from you first.
Malcolm X said one time that when things happen to certain people, when they created certain environments for themselves, that this was chickens coming home to roost. That's how I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it just like Malcolm X left it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I said it. I said it all the time that we got a choice in this election. It's either democracy or dictatorship. We got to make that choice, and then I'm gonna leave it at that. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay tuned. We'll discuss the impact of gentrification and potential solutions to the housing crisis. We'll be right back.
End up being the worst year of my life afterwards. But it is the day of the Brooklyn Day shooting, right? So this year, I wanted to do something that reflected her light. Cried a billion tears throughout the year. Every single occasion, birthday, holiday, everything was so painful. So this July 2nd, I wanted to have a festival, a celebration of life for her. And so we had basketball tournaments. There's double dutch competition. There's food trucks. We had some performances. We had a marching band come out. We had some activities for the kids, a fire truck. It was absolutely amazing. And guess what? It is going to come back every year. We're going to have an Aaliyah Day. And so be on the lookout for that, because we are bringing communities together and we're showing people that you can come out and have a good time in the park and not worry about losing your life. This is how you really do it.
And on that note, thank you to our listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's a podcast, technical difficulty sometimes. Earlier, you mentioned gentrification. Can you explain the impact on Baltimore's housing landscape? How is the impact in Baltimore's neighborhoods, particularly in the area of Park Heights?
So, for those that don't clearly understand what gentrification is, right? This is the movement of a certain class of people to move in another class of people, and displacing the initial class of people. It began to be a problem when you see these master plans done in these neighborhoods. And, I call them the master's plan, right? It's not necessarily for us because it ain't by us. So when you create these master plans, if they're not comprehensive and they're not done by the community, then they're going to injure the community. They're designed to injure the people that currently live there. Back in 2005, our organization was a part of the development of the master plan in Park Heights. So in 2006, that plan was adopted and became the Bible, if you will, for development in Park Heights, mainly of which a lot of what you see now. That is the same document that they're still working on. Even though whether it's outdated or not, it's the one that they're going to use. In combating gentrification in 2010, when I named the legislation that was done, the Affordable Housing Community Land Trust, by HUD statute, by HUD's definition, this is an anti-gentrification tool. It's not widely used because that's not everybody's interest. It's not about, how do we restore our neighborhoods. This is about how to replace people that live in our neighborhoods. So when we began to restore people that live in the neighborhoods, and not only was it just about the housing, because it's hard to do, or you shouldn't do, real estate development without doing human development, right? They should work hand in hand, and most people don't. They don't understand that human development takes priority over the real estate development. We build a lot of shiny buildings in the city and don't do a whole lot for the people that live in those same neighborhoods. What we did is we said, if you're going to redevelop these neighborhoods or these properties in our neighborhood, well, guess who should be doing the work on those properties? Guess who should be living in those properties? Guess who'll be getting the financing in those properties? Guess who'll be doing the contracting, getting those general contractors and subcontracts? Also be people that be a reflection of the neighborhood. So when we did that, we hired guys off the street. We hired guys that were hanging out on Cold Spring Lane, that were down on Rock Rose, that were hanging out on Keyworth, that were hanging on the Wrightstown Road, on Park Heights, on Belvedere, all of it. And when we did that, we saw that these guys were now protecting the neighborhood because they were a part of it. They were a part of the development. They were entrenched in the development of their own neighborhood. They weren't going to take the copper out of the building. They were protecting the copper that was in the building. They were protecting the development of those properties. The first house that we did, and I'll give an address, right? 2626 Park Heights Terrace. It's the first house we did. And this was a vacant house that had been vacant for 15 years. The people that currently live in that house was a young family. They were 26 years old. The wife was pregnant. At the time, she had a job working at the aquarium. And her husband had a job working at the zoo. But they were able to afford that house that we sold for $140,000, right? That took them from a $1,500 to $2,000 a month rent to a $700 to $900 a month mortgage. That was empowerment. The house now, as the city went and did development, started selling houses around the corner from the house for $350,000. And the big question was, for who? Right? For who? We said, no, we're not going to allow that to happen. So we went right back and started doing more houses, started selling for under $200,000, because it wasn't about us making a profit. It was about us helping our people. It was about us helping our people. So now people kind of understand now we control the comps in the neighborhood. One of the things about the anti-gentrification model, the community land trust model, that even a lot of people that are running community land trusts don't understand is that there's a provision in it that says you can't sell this house for more than what the average median income in this neighborhood can afford. So if you're selling out for $350,000, that means you're telling people they can afford a $2,225 to $2,500 a month mortgage. For who? That's not what we have. Most of the neighborhoods in Baltimore, particularly in Park Heights, the average median income is $39,000. Right? $39,000. That means you can afford a house up to about $120,000, $130,000, $140,000. We've been doing that for years. It's not new. It's not a new phenomenon. The thing is, what's new about it is everybody wants to do it, but they don't know how. So
that's a delicate balance. That's a delicate balance to strike. What policy changes do you think are necessary to ensure equitable development in our neighborhoods? Just to go first, I really think, like you said, when we see our neighborhoods and we see the construction and anything that goes in the neighborhoods, they're not us. So that's one thing that needs to change. We need to give back to the communities the right way. If we give them the opportunity, like you said, to fix the houses, to rent it to them, to give them ownership, to give them something to not go back to the streets for, anything else that's not positivity. That's what we need to do. That's just my first opinion. And, you know, when I ran for mayor, my whole thing was fixing the housing issue. And people were asking me, how can you do that? You know, they're saying things that I'm saying is unbelievable when I see people giving billions of dollars to another country when we got homeless people sitting here. But again, that's another story. But what's your take on that, man? What policy changes do you think are necessary to ensure equitable development in the city of Baltimore?
One, the biggest thing that we can do to change the trajectory of Baltimore, especially in a lot of the desperate communities, is control and oversight of the board estimates. That's one. The board estimates, for those that don't know, is where all of the money every Wednesday is spent in the city. millions, tens of millions of dollars every Wednesday is spent in this city. And so a lot of times the people don't even know where that money goes. And these are your tax dollars. When you pay your property tax and you pay your water bill, or you pay that fine that you got for having your grass high and all of that, right? They're spending that money every Wednesday. I encourage anybody. It's open. But most people don't go because they don't know, right? And you can't go if you don't know. So I tell everybody, go down there and get a copy of the book and look and see how your money's being spent in this city. That's the first thing. The second thing is also during that same board is where all these contracts are awarded. That's where every property gets assigned. When someone buys a property, if it's a city property, it has to go through the Board of Estimates. Every single one has to go through the Board of Estimates. Every Wednesday, there are properties that are awarded to people every Wednesday, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is increasing the percentage of minority participation in those contracts. So where the minimum was 25 to 30%, why? I don't think there should be a minimum. There should be something that says, you know what, if we are 65% of the population of the city, that's what it should be. Make it that. Make it 65% and say, now I will give the governor a little bit on this, that he did that dramatically. On a lot of state contracts, you have that 40% participation now, mandated. It's mandated at the state level, right? It's mandated at the state level. So those are a couple things. The other thing is getting people to understand that you can buy a piece of this city. You can own a piece of this city. And the government doesn't have to control what we do. They don't control what happens in our neighborhoods. We do. And we can probably talk about that on the other side, But those are some of the things, is community understanding what the rules are and understanding that the only thing, we don't live by the politicians. The politicians, we pay their salaries and they should work for us. Those are some of the things.
Absolutely. Communities, definitely have to get that knowledge and understand. That's just like the same thing when I was running for mayor. People was like, I didn't know you was running for mayor. I'm like, you got to do your research. It's called Google, but like they said, the main media only show for people. But we'll be back in a moment. Coming up, we'll talk about strategies to ensure everyone has a place to call home. Don't go away. We here with my man, Will Hanna. We talk about the housing crisis in our city. We will be right back. That's my goal.
And that's where ABM Marketing Group was created. I've been an owner of a marketing company since I was 18 years old. I'm going to be 30. I'm telling my age now, but I'll be 30 this year. Right? I've been a CEO for 11 years. Right? I've hired over thousands of people in Baltimore City because I knew at the end of the day, the average job I knew that once I learned the skill set, the opportunity, and the marketing aspect of what I need to do, I was able to train other people to do the same thing. So that's what I decided to do. I decided to take men and women from high school, grown women, adults, teach them on how to make six-figure salaries every single year. So that's where ABM Marketing Group came into play. Right? But then after that, right, we go into further depth, right, into why I decided to run for
Wendell Freeman, my guest for today is the Park Heights legend, my man, Will Hanna. Will, you've been deeply involved in community efforts in Park Heights. Can you share some success stories and innovative solutions that have made a difference?
Absolutely. When you create, and I have to preface this part with, our organization is 25 years old. We've been doing this for a long time. So we were created in 1999. And one of the very first projects that we worked on was a building that a lot of people see now and they don't know how it got there, right? Was the Zeta Center. The Zeta Center on Park Heights, 4151 Park Heights. If you've never been there, it's like a big recreation center for seniors. Like you go in there and you see the seniors that are shooting pool, they're doing line dances, they're doing all of those things. And that building opened in 2009. It's been there for 15 years. It's their 15-year anniversary. That is probably one of the success stories, I would say, from a development standpoint, but also from a community standpoint. And when you see, and this is also another project that the city underfunded that took 10 years to open. Like I said, we started that project in 1999. It didn't open until 2009. And it only got 1 year of administrative funding.
It's crazy. I was 4 then.
Right?
That's how long they've been doing. That's crazy.
But this is, you know, over the last 25 years, we've seen hundreds of new homeowners in our neighborhood. We've seen new businesses. Park Heights, and I can go down a list of some of the inventory in Park Heights, right? We had 29 community associations. Park Heights is made up of 12 neighborhoods. 12 neighborhoods. That's in Southern Park Heights, right? So everything below Northern Parkway, there are 12 neighborhoods that make up that whole 1,700 acre space. Above Northern Parkway, there are 5 neighborhoods. So Park Heights proper is 17 neighborhoods total, from Park Circle down the bottom, all the way up to Slade Avenue, right at Pikesville. That's all Park Heights. And a lot of people don't know that they're still in Park Heights. If you go to Cold Spring, Newtown, you're still in Park Heights. If you live in Central Park Heights, if you live in Green Spring, you're still in Park Heights. If you live in Silburn, you're still in Park Heights. If you live in Park Circle, you're in Park Heights. You know, so we always have to, people always think that Park Heights is just what's on Park Heights Avenue. Park Heights is a huge neighborhood. It's a huge neighborhood. And it's a collective of neighborhoods that make up that entire community. And so those are some of the things I would say were some of the success stories. When we created the Park Heights Presidential Council, the Park Heights Presidential Council was created because we wanted to bring all of the neighborhood presidents together, and then we were collectively and collaboratively creating a way forward for what Park Heights was going to look like. From the Park Heights Presidential Council came Neighborhoods United. Neighborhoods United then was led by the late, great George Mitchell. So when you look at how things are done in Park Heights, this is how they got there, right? So we've been there the whole time. We didn't need the government to intervene in what the community considered our business. But we did need their support. And I will say this, and a lot of people give a lot of our elected officials, they haze them up and they say, no pun intended, haze them up. But, you know, you know, but they give them a lot of grief when things don't go right. And so I wanted to make sure that every opportunity that I get, that I say that we've had one steadfast politician that said, you know, I'm going to listen to the community and I'm going to see what it is that the community wants. A lot of things that we have in Park Heights now are because we had some people fighting for us. Everybody didn't turn the blind eye. So I have to give a little bit of praise to Councilwoman Sharon Middleton. And a lot of people say, well, she's been there too long. She's been there 20 years. One thing that we had that a lot of communities didn't have was continuity. So the same way we've been there the whole time, she has too. So so I had to say that. I had to mention that. But those are some of the success stories when you look at what's going on in Park Heights. And not only that, but we've been able to maintain most of the fabric of community. And so when we look at places like, even on Belvedere, right, you see that I can count. I remember we used to have 15, 20, 30 homicides in Park Heights. So when I go to the success stories, I look now and we have 3. You know, you have 3 homicides. We still have a lot of the prevalent drug activity that goes on exactly where we know it is. Park Heights and Cold Spring, you know, Park Heights and Belvedere, Rock Rose Avenue. We know what's going on, right? But for the most part, we drove a lot of that traffic out of the neighborhoods and said, not going to do that here, you know. But if we take away the demand, then we take away the issue. And that's what we tried to be able to do. And giving people jobs was first and foremost. If you had a choice between making $100 a day standing outside or making $100 in 4 hours for working on a house, more than likely you're going to work on that house, right? Even if it was just being part of a demolition team where we can let you take all your frustration out and give you this sledgehammer and go in and just tear all the walls out that building. It was helpful. It's therapeutic for some people. So those are, when you talk about the success, I can go on and talk about some of those, because while one thing that we tend to do as a people, we'll talk about the problem without having a solution, right? So we have to be more solution oriented.
Absolutely. Those are promising solutions. How can we ensure these strategies are implemented effectively all across the city. First of all, I want to thank you for the work that you've been doing in Park Heights. I just drove through Park Heights recently. I was looking like, wow, like it's different around here. I grew up in Park Heights a little bit. I had some aunts and cousins who lived on Prices and Almond, which is right there.
Right
so
I'm
definitely familiar with the area. I'm an East Side baby, but I always love the West Side. But how can we ensure these strategies be implemented all across the city? I think that this is something that we have to put across the city. It's even like what Uncle Wayne was talking about with this trade school idea about, getting the inner city youth something to do in a positive way. But what's your opinion on that? How can we get this implemented all around the city of Baltimore? Because this needs to be implemented like today, if you ask me.
It's already in place.
Okay.
Right. So let me tell you this. We have, I talk about the Community Land Trust Initiative back in 2012, when we created the first affordable community land trust in the state, in Park Heights. I met with every CDC, every community development corporation in the city. We had a meeting at the Zeta Center. And I said, you all don't have to go out and create all of these small CLTs all over the city. We created the Baltimore City Affordable Housing Community Land Trust. It exists. We created it, we only controlled it. And we told them, said, all people have to do is use it. It already exists. So the workforce development strategies, all the housing initiatives, the affordability, the permanently affordable housing, those things exist right now. There are some people in some neighborhoods that think that if you increase the value of the property, that does something for people. The only thing that increasing the value of the property does is increase their property taxes. Doesn't change how you live in that house. Communities are made by how you live, not where you live. So when you can create something that's sustainable for people, because really what Baltimore needs is sustainability. We don't need rapid growth to say, we're creating a bunch of $400,000 houses. Well, who were they important for? Were they important for the people that 15 years ago lived there that you did nothing for? Those are the things. So it's something that can be implemented tomorrow. It just has, people have to have the will, no pun intended, the will to do it. And we're open. We're like, okay, we're not going to keep this information to ourselves. A lot of times people say we die for lack of knowledge. We're willing to share this information. I know you had our new incoming, newly just started yesterday, executive director.
Crystal Gonzalez.
Right,
Miss Crystal, Gonzalez. We love you.
She's now the executive director of the new Park Heights Community Development Corporation. And you've had her here and people know her. So, but she's a lightning rod, right? And the thing is, it takes certain people to do this work. You have to have a certain mentality and a certain passion for people to do this work. So it was easy. We didn't have to sell to her and say, hey, we want you to come on. Not only just with Ms. Gonzalez, but all with our board members. Our board members are like-minded people that get it. Not just being conscious and woke, but doing the work and being very deliberate about it.
Absolutely. Community involvement and initiative solutions are essential in addressing the crisis that we just talked about. Speaking of community, I want to take a moment to remember Jacoby Jones, a beloved Ravens legend who passed away this weekend. His contributions, both on and off the field, have a lasting impact on the city of Baltimore. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends during this difficult time. So just pray for his friends and family. Definitely was a Baltimore legend. We will never forget you or your impact on the city of Baltimore. Will, personal stories often highlight the real impact of these issues. Can you? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we didn't. I'm sorry. Can you share a story from someone in Park Heights who has been affected by the housing crisis?
Wow, I think I identified one family that we talked to. But also, when you look at people like, I always have to give credit to people like Valerie Matthews, that came out of the community, that now she serves over 400 or 500 people every week in Park Heights. No notoriety, no funding, none of that. She does that. So I shout out those type of people. But when we look at the housing issue, it's because we still have, the issue is that we're still having to feed 400 or 500 people every week. And I guess we can get to it on the other side.
Absolutely. That's a powerful story, and it underscores the importance of community support and effective advocacy. Uh, so I get paid to sell, not spell. But anyway, again, when we talk about what we talk about today, we talk about the housing crisis in the city of Baltimore. And we're talking about something that has been going on longer than me and you have been breathing air to combine together in the city of Baltimore. It's all about the communities getting tired. And I feel like the communities aren't tired enough. And I just said a story recently about when I was canvassing running for mayor and I was talking to people and I'm working in I'm knocking in not Park Heights, it was some parts in West Baltimore. And I'm talking about this dude, he lived in like 2 vacant houses right next to him. And I'm like, hey man, like, like how do you feel about this? I don't care. Nothing's gonna change. And in my mind, I'm like, nothing changes unless we change.
That's right.
If we don't become the change agents, if we don't become the people who say, oh, enough is enough, like you're doing the work outside of public office. You don't need to be in public office to make a real change. 100 families have affordable housing off the work that you're doing. And I just wanted to tell you I appreciate that. Okay. Game time. Game time. All right, so we're gonna change the mood. Well, we're gonna change the mood.
Okay.
Now let's lighten things up a bit and get to know each other. Perspectives better. Let's play a game. It's called Quick Fire Questions with Wendell. It's a fast-paced, engaging game designed to bring out spontaneous and insightful resources. The game focuses on Baltimore culture, community issues, and personal preferences, providing both entertainment and our deepest understanding of our guest. My guest today, Will, viewpoint personalities. Are you ready to play?
Should I be nervous?
No, you shouldn't be nervous.
Right,
this is something you do, baby. When you act like that, you do this.
Let's go.
All right, number one.
I know that they call me one take hold.
Yeah, I know. We know. We should have said in the introduction, one take hold. All right, question number one. What's your favorite spot in Baltimore to relax?
Favorite spot in Baltimore to relax? Somewhere that does karaoke. Someone that does karaoke.
Okay.
Let me see. I would probably say Capitol Lounge on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay.
Or Fridays at Mondawmin.
Okay.
So it's kind of half.
Okay. My favorite spot to relax, I would say my house. I think honestly, the house I just moved into is real comfortable. I would say that's my favorite place in Baltimore to relax.
and can I give a shout out to my little cousin, Katie Ficklin?
Shout out, Katie.
Down at Capitol Lounge.
Capitol Lounge. Oh, yeah, Capitol Lounge.
Gotta go get the stuffed potatoes. I'm telling you, I gotta go get the stuffed potatoes at Capitol Lounge.
Shout out, Katie. Make sure you go get what you say?
That stuffed potatoes.
Stuffed potato, Capitol Lounge.
Listen to me. The seafood with the shrimp and all that. It's this big. That's all I'm just saying.
All right, got you. He said you gotta pay me for the endorsement, cuz. All right. Question number 2. Most memorable event you attended in Baltimore?
Most memorable event. The most memorable event I think that I've attended in Baltimore, for me personally, was a youth football game that we had sponsored, and I own a pro football team.
Yes, we're gonna talk about that.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was a youth football game, and they commemorated a kid that had leukemia, and he passed away, and family was distraught, all of that, but they were there and they were vibrant and they were there still celebrating this 7-year-old's life. And it was while it was tragic, it was beautiful. So I that stuck with me, and that was probably almost 20 years ago.
Great story. My most memorable event I attended in Baltimore, it was when I was a kid. When I attended the WWE, I will never forget that. When WWE came to Baltimore for the first time, when I was a kid, I was the biggest wrestling fan. The Rock was my man. Like, you couldn't tell me nothing about The Rock. And John Cena. And when they came, they surprised me, and they came, and that's like, even to this day as a grown man, like, I still remember that. Like, that's my all-time favorite moment. Event I went to in Baltimore. I wish I'd go back again.
I'm a little older than you, so my favorite wrestler was Ric Flair.
Ric Flair. The Nature Boy Ric Flair. They said that, man.
Classic.
All right, number 3. Who is your Baltimore hero and why?
My Baltimore hero was Dr. Ann Emery. Dr. Emery was the principal at Walbrook High School, and she created the military program, the ROTC program at Walbrook, and that's what saved my life. I grew up in some of the worst neighborhoods in Baltimore, from Murphy Homes to Lexington Terrace to Park Heights. And when I went to Walbrook, I got into the military program and went in the military when I was 17. Saved my life. So she's my hero. She's always been my hero, and you know, God rest her soul.
Thank you. We'll go to rest in peace. So we still love you. Who was your Baltimore hero and why? I have two, honestly. I would say my first is my mom. Not the one who, obviously, not the one who birthed me, the one who raised me. She gave me the reason, like even before I had a son and a daughter, now that I have now, like I've always had a love for children. You know, and I always tell like my friends. I remember before I had kids, my friends would have kids, and it's like your kids are my kids. Like they with me, you hear about something happening to me before happening to them. But my mom instilled that into me. She instilled in me that, you know, like she just raised kids, she took care of kids, and you know, she almost had a daycare before she, you know, God took her home before she was able to get that. But just that love of having not just kids, but having that real love. Because you know, a kid gonna tell you what it is. A kid gonna love you, they gonna hate you, they gonna do that. But my second hero was my middle school teacher. Her name was Miss Sproul. She actually saved my life. When I was coming up in school, I was quiet, and people used to mess with me. And one day the bully messed with me too much, and almost had a wild out attitude. But she came to me, and ever since then, she just took me as her own son, like adopted me as her own son. And still to this day, I talk to her. I still send her to my show, and she just loves it.
Well, let me
Yes, sir.
piggyback on that really quick, because I'd be remiss if I didn't mention two people. And so when you ask the question, you're thinking outside of family. So if I had to, my mother is my hero. Let me just say that she's my hero. Me and my mother went in the military together. We went to Desert Storm together. We went into combat together on the same airplane on our way to Saudi Arabia. So that's my hero. My other hero is my grandfather. My grandfather is in the Maryland Boxing Hall of Fame. He was up the boxing, boxed all over the world. And he was a man. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has, especially guys, you know, there's always that guy that we can always point to and say, that's the one. That's the one that I can point to say that saved my life. My grandfather instilled that in not only his grandsons, who had 44 of them, but his sons who became our mentors, my Uncle Larry and my Uncle Carl. So,
man, Grandpa was a Rolling Stone. Thank you for sharing that. Question number 5. Number 4. What's the best advice you ever received in your life so far?
Best advice I received in my life. When I was 10 years old, my grandmother told me, you treat women the way you want your mother and your sisters to be treated. That was the most impactful thing she ever told me. You treat women the way you want your mother and your sisters to be treated. Most impactful thing ever.
For me, I would say the best advice I ever was have, like, you also treat people the way you want to be treated, but also, never give what you need right back. I think that was honestly the realest advice that I had, because you know how you give people stuff and they don't give it right back, or they say they give it to you one day, they don't. And just the biggest thing was like, don't let out something that you're gonna need right back. And that sticks to me to this day, because now I move on that way, because I move like that basically. Question number 5. What's the biggest challenge Baltimore faces today, in your opinion?
Leadership.
I knew you was going to say that. Wow. Can you elaborate?
Paramount. And some people may say it's a shot. I'm saying that Baltimore hasn't had anyone in leadership that's run a business, right? So I don't know how you can run this corporation of Baltimore City and you've never run a business.
The night.
Right? You've never run it. So we take people that have never run a business, but we give them a $3.5 billion budget and say, hey, go be mayor. Right? And these people now, I mean, it's like if I have my son, and if my son is 5 years old, and I gave my son a 5-year-old $1,000, he don't know what to do with it. That's what we got in Baltimore. Right. We got a bunch of 5-year-olds with a bunch of $1,000.
Yeah, he just hit it right on the nose. I would say corruption is the biggest thing.
That's why you got the corruption.
Yeah.
You got 5-year-olds with thousands of dollars.
Yeah, corruption is the biggest thing Baltimore faces in this city. When we look at the corruption, it's been going on for too long. And they corrupted the last mayor election. But we're going to talk about that more later.
We can talk about that.
Yeah. All right. 2 more questions real quick. Can the Ravens win the Super Bowl this year?
The Ravens will win 3 Super Bowls in the next 5 years.
You heard him say it.
I said it.
And this is a football GOAT, so if he said it, I'll put my money on it. Yes,
and not only because they signed one of my guys. One of my guys is now playing for the Ravens, Todd Simmons Jr.
Todd Simmons Jr., shout out to him. You're Ravens. Shout out to him. Can the Ravens win the Super Bowl this year? What kind of question is that? Of course the Ravens going to win the Super Bowl this year. We have Lamar Jackson, the best quarterback in the league. What are we talking about? Anyway, let's keep going. Last question. Can Baltimore become a top tourist destination?
Not in my lifetime.
Damn. Why you say that?
Not in my lifetime. Because it's too many. It's because the work that needs to be done in Baltimore is 20 years away. Damn. It's 20 years away. So you figure we're just getting, just to look at one sector of the city in Park Heights that it took us 20 years to get, and we're not even done.
Right.
It's been 20 years, 25 years from our organization alone. The city itself, I mean, there are parts of Baltimore that people have never been to, right? There are a lot of people that live in this city that have never been to Harbor East, that don't even know it exists. It's like a whole separate city. So I don't think it'd be a tourist destination. I think we're 20 years away from that, to where people, you know, if you live in California, you're going to say, you know what, I think I'm going to go to Baltimore. We ain't there yet.
Right.
We ain't nowhere near that.
Right. So. The answer to that question, until you elect Wendell Freeman for mayor, that's my question. That's my answer to that question. But you got another 4 years to deal with the crap that you're dealing with now. All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with a special segment on community voices and personal stories. We'll be right back. Transparent Talks with Wendell Freeman. Right. Will, thank you for participating in our game and sharing your insight today. As we wrap up, what are your final thoughts do you have about addressing the housing crisis in Baltimore?
Until I want people to understand that, and I'm going to look into the camera when I say, people that in Baltimore, you have options. And I'm not even talking about during elections. You have options. You have opportunity. And I think that those opportunities will be expounded once people understand that we can't rebuild Baltimore off of public money. It's never going to happen. We've been trying to do that for years and years and decades, and we haven't gotten there. And until there's a huge infusion of private capital and private equity, some of which we're doing now, you're not going to see those changes. And the part that gives me hope about it is seeing those 100 families, and seeing those 200 families that we're going to help in West Baltimore now, and redevelopment of adding another 520 units of affordable housing off of Franklin Street all the way back to Emerson Avenue. That's happening right now. Those things are going on right now. So the affordability is one thing, but the opportunities are the biggest thing. That's a lot of jobs for a lot of people that live in those neighborhoods. And so if you think about how you turn city around, how you change Baltimore, you got to get away from, we have to get away, and no offense to you, because I ran for office too. I ran for office a couple of times myself. But we have to get away from relying on the politicians. We have to get away from that and letting the politicians think or believe that they're the gatekeepers to our communities. They're not. We are the gatekeepers to our own neighborhoods and our own communities. And until we empower our communities and our neighborhoods with that, then Baltimore won't change. But it becomes incumbent upon people like me and my peers and all that, because I always tell people we're a generation away from the real what is it? The real impact that's needed in this city. We're one generation away. You know, I'm probably a generation or two older than you, right? But it's my generation that killed Baltimore, right? And let me say this in reality for a second. It's my generation that killed Baltimore. These guys that are running around Baltimore that are in their 50s now were the same ones that were in their 20s and 30s in the 80s and 90s killing Baltimore, selling a whole bunch of drugs, doing a whole bunch of things, introducing crack to our neighborhoods, so there becomes now a responsibility of the guys that are now in their 50s who didn't reach back and go back and get a Wendell Freeman, who didn't go back and get a Brandon Scott, who didn't go back and get those people that now were fatherless, right? Homeless, right? That lacked education, all of those things. We did that to this city. The people, the guys that were my age, destroyed Baltimore. So I tell all of them, and I look into the camera and I say, it's your fault, but now y'all have an opportunity to fix it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Change starts with all of us. You just pretty much said that. Working together, we can create a brighter future for Baltimore's residents. You know, when we look at our city, and I look at, you know, people feel like there's no hope in fixing vacant houses, no hope in the developments of our communities. There's no hope in, you know, all these issues, but it is, because you are example of that.
I appreciate that.
You put the heart, the mind, like you say, you might not have the resources, but it's opportunities here now that, you know, you can't say you don't know. Will Hanna just said it, right? It's opportunities that we can change our situation, and I agree with you 100%. You don't have to be in public office to make a difference in your communities. We're seeing it through you. We're seeing it through me. We're seeing it through people like Crystal Gonzalez, you know, Linda Batch. You know, we could go on and on about community, you know, activists that who are out there doing the work each and every day. So we want to salute everybody who are out there, like a Will Hanna, who may not have the spotlight like we have, to let you know we see you, we hear you, and we're going to do what we got to do to, you know, improve this situation, because it's a situation that can be fixed, but we got to do it together. So thank you, Will, for joining me today for this pivotal insight. I just want you to plug in anything that you have. I know you have a football team. Can you talk about that? How can people get involved with you? How can people get in contact with the one take man himself, Mr. Hanna?
So let me in closing, a lot of people that know me know I'm a big sports fan. Aside from what I do in Park Heights, I own a company called HMG Sports, and what we do is, I mean, we own now Baltimore will have a new pro football team.
That's fire.
Baltimore have a new pro football team. August 2nd, that announcement will be coming. It's going to be a press conference down at the Pendry Hotel in the International Football Alliance, the IFA. Baltimore will have a new role. The Baltimore Lightning. I tell you, Baltimore Lightning.
Baltimore Lightning, look out.
You know, if you don't know, Google it, look it up. You'll see. We give a lot of these young men from the city that are now playing overseas, that are now playing in Brazil, that are playing in Germany, that are playing all over the place. So I want to shout out my guys with the Baltimore Lightning, the entire crew, the staff, Julian and Matt and everybody else, and we'll see all of this stuff happen. But I'm excited about that, giving these young men not only opportunities in development and real estate and all those things, but giving them an opportunity through sports, because, you know, sports is really big in Baltimore. And the Ravens and Orioles do a great job of doing some things, but they don't touch enough of the people.
Absolutely.
To be able to say, you know what, let's get this young man to go over here and get an opportunity to go to college. Let's give him an opportunity to go play overseas. We're doing that. And so I'm proud of what we've done with the Baltimore Lightning and looking forward to a lot of great things. August 2nd, Pendry Hotel.
Yeah, well, you heard him, the myth, the legend, Mr. Will Hanna. Thank you again for coming on here. You know, one thing about you, Will, I know that, you know, you're a stand-up man, and, you know, I know that you for the people. You know, ever since I met you, you know, you came with that energy, and, you know, I get a lot of what I do for you. People are like, you got a lot of passion, and, you know, Will Hanna is a part of that. So I just wanted to thank you.
I appreciate it.
You know, to our listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode. This episode was fire. Transparent Talks with Wendell Freeman. Join us next week as we continue to explore the issues that matter most to our city. We got some great announcements coming up soon. Back to school drive, plus pop-up shop is underway. We are currently looking for vendors and volunteers. You know, if you are interested, please contact me All right, contact me. Contact me, wendellfreeman.com. You can contact the email, my Wendell Freeman for Baltimore at gmail.com. You can sign up on our website to be a volunteer. We need you. Everybody know I love the kids. Oh, speaking of that, I got Will Hanna. We confirmed partnership. He's going to be with me on that as well. I got Uncle Wayne. I got my sisters. I got Leah. I got Asia. I got some people that's going to be there that's going to help the support. We're going to have a live DJ. We're going to do the whole shebang bang. It's going to be a good time. Please bring your kids. We will have a lot of resources for them. We will have everything that they need to go get ready for school. So again, please look out for the way. It's August 24th. Look out for more details when we drop it. Yes.
I just want to say one more.
Yes, go. You go.
I want to shout out Team Tank.
Team Tank. Shout out
So
Team
Lori
Tank.
Reed, I know Lori's watching. She with Team Tank. With Giovanni Tank Davis,
Okay.
GTD. So shout
out
out to
to
Lori
GTD.
Reed and Calvin and Kenny and the whole team. So I'm glad to be now a new member of the team. So we ready to make it happen.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You heard him announce it live on Transfers out with Freeman, the newest member of the GTD.
Team Tank.
All right. So look, man, thank y'all for coming on tonight. Well, thank you, Will, again for coming on. You will be back on season 2 of Transparent with Wendell Freeman. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Visit the website. Purchase the Transparent Talk merch that I have on tonight. Listen, we got different colors and different flavors. If you want a color that we don't have, please send us an email. We will get that color for you. Together, we can build a brighter future together. Until next time, Baltimore, stay strong, stay prayed up, and stay hopeful.